Hi, I'm Margaret Lewin and welcome to Margaret Lewin Quilting. Today we are going to be making our just-in-case bag. There's two sizes to this pattern and I have kitted it up so that you can purchase one of the Notions kits and make both bags, or you can purchase one of the fabric kits and make both bags, and the pattern is also available on my website. So this is the outside of the large bag. You can see I don't have my binding stitched down yet. I'm gonna do this one hand stitched. I'll flip it over and show you the other side. And then inside here, we've got this great plastic pocket, vinyl pocket. And then on this side, we have this mesh to hold our things. So great size bag. I think this would be absolutely perfect to take on a plane with you because you can very easily see what's in it. The other thing that's really neat about it is when you bring both sides together, there's a magnet there that holds it together. So you've got this nice sturdy little case that is held together quite securely. The fabric that I'm using to make this is Margot Elena's Stories in Songbirds for Free Spirit Fabrics. I just think that it's gorgeous. I think it looks really pretty. This one is totally complete. I did use my sewing machine to machine stitch down my binding, and it looks great. I just want to do hand stitching on the big one. This one, we also have one side pocket here with the mesh, a side pocket here with the vinyl cover, but we also have an additional little pocket right here, which is very nice to have. And this one also, I'll zip it up for you. This one also goes back together at the top. So, and the magnet is really strong, but the best part about it is you can't see the magnet anyplace, which I just love. Now this pattern is by Annie, and the patterns, as I said, are available on my website. So let's dig into it and see how I went about making it. This is the material that I've picked out for mine, and the kits are available on my website. So one of the first things that we need to do is get all of our pieces cut. So what I want you to do is go into your pattern, and on page 2, it will tell you exactly the sizes to cut all of your pieces. Now what I did was I took a chunk of it and I just quilted it up on my long arm so that I could just cut it and be ready to go. If you are going to do that, what you're going to want to do is order extra fabric, because the pattern just calls for how much fabric there is. You could very easily quilt this on your home domestic machine too. So this is the small case, I believe. No, this is the large case, and I'll show you here is the small case. And we're actually going to be making both of them. This is my inside material, and this is my outside material. Then I've decided to use this really pretty turquoise as my zipper, because that's another piece that will really show up. Then this is my coordinating fabric that will act like a binding, okay? So the first thing that I want you to do to get ready for this kit is I want you to get all of your fabric cut out according to the pieces. And what we're going to do today is just go through all of the prep that we do first to put these bags together. So we've got a number of things that we've got to do to get it ready to go. Then the next video, I'll show you exactly how I put it together. So that's where we're going to start today. So pull out your patterns. I'm going to get my pattern pulled out and all of my pieces pulled out so that you can see what I've done to prepare to put the bag together. All right, so I have all of my pieces here laid out, and I want to go over what I've got, all right? I think this is important that we make sure that we have everything. I have my main fabric, I have my soft and stable on the inside, and then this is my lining fabric. I've got that for my large bag and my small bag. The other thing I have is my purse parts, and these are two magnetic, a positive and a negative, magnets for the bag so that it will snap closed. I've got two of those, one for each one of them. The other thing I have is fabric for binding, I have my mesh for my mesh pockets. I also have my zipper. Now this is one big zipper with 2 pulls on it because I'm going to end up cutting this to make 2 separate zippers for the bag. This is for the large one. Then I've got 2 pieces, and they're in your direction so you can get the sizes, for that have interfacing on the back of it, and they have interfacing to give it just a little bit more body. So I've got 2 of those, 2 more pieces that have interfacing in them, and then I've got my large pieces of vinyl that will also be in your kits to cut, okay? So I've got 2 big pieces of that. For my small bag, I have 1 small piece of the mesh because I only use 1. I have some fabric for binding, some more binding fabric. Then I have 2 pieces that have interfacing to give them stability. 2 more pieces for interfacing. Again, my another large zipper, and then 2 more pieces of plastic for on the inside of the bag. It's actually vinyl. So that's what I've got for my 2 bags. So the next step I need to do is to start making the marks on the inside of it and do some more prep work that has to do with it. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to set all of these pieces aside in 2 separate piles so that I make sure that I keep them separate, because I really don't want to confuse them because the sizes, we just don't want to. They're 2 different ones. I'm going to get these set aside, and then I'm going to pull out my pattern and see what my markings. You can see here I've already I think you can see I've already done my markings. One of the things I should have done before I did my markings is I need to stitch about 1/8 of an inch all the way around this. I'm going to do that first. Then I'm going to double check my markings per my pattern. So what I am working on is I'm working on B, which is mark. First thing I'm going to do is my A part, which is quilt and trim, and then stitch all the way around the pieces 1/8 from the edge. Then after I do that, I'm going to do my marking. Then I'll come back and show you what my marking looks like and what exactly it was that I used to mark up my pieces. So I will be back in just a minute with both of those items. I think you can see, I'll pick it up just in case you can't, that I have stitched all the way around the edges. And I did this on my large one and on my small one, okay? Now what you're gonna wanna do is start marking it. Now the 2 tools that I recommend to mark it is either this Bowen chalk pencil, and how you get it open is you push down on the top, and you do push pretty hard, and what happens is the chalk just comes out. So you're going to use this and one of your rulers just to draw the lines exactly where they tell you to. The other thing that I recommend using is one of these chalk markers. They have a very fine tip at the end, and they're filled with chalk, and I believe you can refill them. So what you do is, again, just use your ruler, line it up, and then just make the mark across it. You're going to make marks on the front of it. Then you're also going to make marks on the lining. And I want you to see what I did on this piece of the lining. I actually stuck pins in where my marks are, only because I know that the white is not very easy to see on this. And these come in yellow, and these have different colored chalk with them, but I don't use anything but the white, because the white is the only thing that I know for certain will come out of the fabric and I won't see it anymore. So in instances like this where I've got lines that I'm making, I'll just take my pins, grab a couple of them, and I'll just make marks with my pins on the lines that I have drawn so that I can easily find them again later on. So this is what I'm doing. Now, I will be careful to make sure that I don't sew over any of these lines because that would not be good at all. So this is what I've done. I got a bunch of lines here and I'm just finishing up putting my little pins in where they go. Now I know this one has got a couple more. I want to get my pins in here because I'm certain you guys can't see these. At least I'm fairly certain you can't. So there's that. Then one more line I've got marked. All right. Now on this other side, it's not a problem. I can see my marks without issue at all. So that's what we're going to do there. Once we've got that done, we're going to take these two pieces. Then I'm just going to set these aside. In the directions, this is where we go ahead and start putting the fusing, the interfacing on the pieces. I've already done that, but this is when you're going to want to do that. So get your pieces out and get your interfacing on them. And this is what they will look like when they're all done. So here's one of my pieces, and it's got a nice body to it now, which is important. This is under C, which is called Prepare the Components of the Case. So I'm going to 1A and B, do my interfacing. Then on number 2, we're going to prepare pocket A, which is the small pocket. All right, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to be sewing my little bit of binding strips across the top of my 3 pieces of netting. Now remember, I'm making 2 of these at once. I'm not making 1 at a time. I'm doing 2 at a time. So I want to show you how I did this. So I take my piece of fabric and I take my piece of fabric and I do spray it with either Best Press or with a magic sizing. All right. I fold it in half first. Okay, get it out. So I fold it in half first. Then after I fold it in half, I open it up and it looks, you know, somewhat like this. I take one side and I fold it up to the center, take the other side, fold it up, and then just fold it over again. And that creates my nice little fold. Then I'll take it once it's there and I do press this one too with either magic sizing or with Mary Ellen's Best Press. And I just tuck the edging of this in there. And this gives me the ability to just top stitch it down using my regular foot on my sewing machine. Now, one of the things I do, once I get it to this stage, let me grab my pens. Once I get it to this stage, I do double check and look and see which side gives me a total coverage, and that's going to be the front of my pocket. And you can see like right down here, I've got a little overlap there. So I would actually flip this over and I will pin from this side because this side looks a little bit nicer on the outside. And that's what I care about. That's what it looks like at the end. So this is my next step of what I'm going to do. I'm just going to top stitch all 3 of these down. I'm going to set this one aside. And then I'm going to take this one and I am going to start putting my zippers in. So I'll be back in a few minutes to do my zippers. All right, so next thing we have to do is attach our zippers. And I want you to see what I do when I go about doing my zips, okay? The first thing I'm gonna do is I got my zipper, and what I did was I had a big long one. I do the zippers on the roll and I just cut mine. So here is my one. I'm gonna take a pin and I'm gonna stick it at the very end of my zipper here because I don't want this coming flying off because I need it. Then I'm gonna take my piece and I'm just gonna lay it right here on top of it and I'm gonna pin it down. One of the things I love about Annie's patterns is she is so precise that they just come out looking so nice when she's done. And I'm gonna show you one of the for instances right here. is you can see on these that the binding she has measured so perfectly that once you stitch this down, you're not going to see that zipper hanging off underneath here, which I think is great because it gives you your piece a nice, really finished look. So once I've done that, then I'm going to attach my second piece. So I will line this all up and I will attach this one, get that sewn down, and then I'll come back and show you what it looks like at that stage. But I wanted you to see it right here. So the only thing I'm going to do right now is stitch this and this down. Follow your directions on how to lay it out and you'll do just great. I did something different than what the pattern called for, so I want to make sure I point it out to you. When I sewed my mesh pocket down, what I did on mine, and mine doesn't seem to be laying perfectly, when I cut my zipper off, I'm going to make sure that I get it squared off because I got a little bit of a bunch right here, but I can get that straightened around. I wanted to tell you what I did was I actually pinned down and then attached. I also, you can see, took out some of my stitches. I pinned down and attached both the top and the bottom, one right after the other. The reason why I did that was because I wanted this to be somewhat the same distance apart. And I found when I did it per the directions, it just didn't work out that way. So I wanted to point that out to you. At this point, I'm going to take these two pieces. I'm going to open my zipper a little bit just so that if I get going on things later, I don't forget that my zipper pull needs to be in the center. So now I'm going to set all three of these pieces aside. Pull out my directions and see what it is that I am supposed to do next. All right, our next step in this is to take our pattern pieces again and to attach our magnets. I've got two sets of magnets here because I'm making two projects at the exact same time. And you can see on this piece, I think, I've got it kind of blocked off where that's gonna go so that we can see it. And I'll turn this over and I've done it again over here on this side. Now I wanna show you these little magnets because these are really cool. First of all, they're very strong, which is fantastic. The other thing about them is these are absolutely sew-in ones. So that, according to the directions, is exactly what we are going to do next. So I am going to take one of my magnets. I have to get these apart, and they don't come apart very easily. I'm going to take one of my magnets, and I'm going to set it right in here according to the directions, and I'm going to sew down all around it. Now, one of the things I am doing is making certain that the inside of the magnet, and you'll be able to tell, it's flat and you can see the magnet that's surrounded by another piece of metal is in there flat and straight. So I'm going to take that and I will pin that down. And then, so I'm going to do that on both of my bags according to what the directions tell me to do. I'm going to stick right by those and I'm going to actually, let's see if I can do it this way. I think I can. Yep, I'm just going to stick a pin right in there. I'm going to do it in two different directions so that it's in there pretty stable. And then I'm just going to top stitch over that, okay? And I'll just top stitch a square right around it. I'm going to do the same thing to this one, and then I will be back. Now, don't forget, we've got a secondary piece that's just sitting waiting for us. So I'm going to get that done to both of my pieces, and then we will be back, okay? I've got my large bag, and I've got my small bag. I'll move these out of the way. And I want you to see what I've done next is I've taken my inner lining, and I have just pinned it down. I'm going to top stitch right down through here, and then I'm going to fold this over and press it down. And then what's going to happen is we're going to nicely cover the magnets on both ends. So I'm going to get that done, and then I'll be back. All right, so you can see here I've got my pieces now sewn down. Here's the flaps, and I'm just going to stick a couple pins in them right now. I could, I think the pattern actually calls for us to baste it down in some manner. I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and double check and read. But for right this second, I'm just going to pin these down. Look, they very, very nicely hide the magnet, which makes me very happy, so you're not going to see it. So I'm going to get those basted, and now it is time to move on to the next step of the directions. So I'll see what we're going to do. We're going to turn over to page 4 and get working on that stuff. So now we're going to take our smaller, these pieces, and we are going to put these on, we're going to put these on this bag. So now now we're going to put them on this side. So what I'm going to do is take that over, and I am going to just stick a little pin in both sides, making sure that I've got it quite a ways inside. Actually, I'm going to pin from this way because I don't want to run over my needles, my pins. So I'm going to pin, I'm going to flip this around, grab 2 more pins. Here we go. 1, 2 pins. All right. So now I'm going to flip this over. Now, according to the directions, I have done my lines where I need them. And oh, so that you know, this was sewn 1/4 inch. So I'm going to show you what I'm going to do right here. I'm going to take this piece, grab a couple pins. All right, I'm going to pin this one down. And I'm going to pin this side down. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to line this one up, and I'm going to do the exact same thing. And then I'm going to sew 1/4 inch seam. So I'm going to get this one down, and now this one down. And then I will sew 1/4 inch seam across here and 1/4 inch seam across here. Then I'm going to flip these open. Isn't that going to be really pretty on the outside? I'm really excited about this. I just think it's going to be adorable. So I'm going to do that on both my small and my large one, and then I will come back and show you what that looks like. I got to adjust these pins though, because they got to come out the end, because this just isn't going to work out the side. So I'll adjust these, and we're almost there. This is actually almost done. This pin in. All right, here we go. So now I've got those in. I'm going to flip this over using the seam guides, or the marking lines that she told us to put down in the beginning. I'm going to line this up, and I am going to just pin this. Got lots of pins going on. But see, now I can just keep sewing. I've got both of them. I'm making them at once. I might as well just keep right on going. So I'm going to do this one and this one. Line these up nice. And then I'll go over to the sewing machine and sew 1/4 inch from this edge, 1/4 inch from this, and then these 2. Then I will be back, because at that point in time, then we're going to start putting our bag together, which is really cool. I want you to see what I've done so far. Hang on just a second. Here we go. All right, this is what I've done so far. I did attach the little pocket because it told me to. So I did get that done off camera. Okay, this is where I'm at. Now, I've gone ahead and finished. Here's the small one. I'll show you that first, okay? All right. I've gone ahead and just worked through and got the little one all finished. So here it is all done, and it just folds up and snaps together with the magnet, and it's a pretty strong magnet. So anyhow, I finished this up per the directions. So now I'm going to walk you through the steps because they're exactly the same. The only difference is that the little one has this little teeny tiny side pocket, and it's very easy to put in just based on the directions. So at this point, this is where I'm at. I have my zipper across, this is the large one. I have my zipper across the top, and you can see that I've just pinned it in place. I'm going to try to straighten this just a little bit. The mesh does have some elasticity to it. So what happens is it did get a little bit out of alignment. So what I'm doing is just pinning it down so that I'm relatively straight through here. And I've attached it per the instructions with the lines. Remember, we had some lines that we had to draw here. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna top stitch it down here, being careful not to hit my magnet, come all the way across, and then I will, this is attached to the zipper, then I'll come down here and I will top stitch again. When I top stitch down here, I'm gonna top stitch on both sides. So I'm gonna run a top stitch line down this way, then I'm gonna run a top stitch line down here. So I'm gonna have that adhered down really sturdy. Then the next thing that I'm going to do before I come back is I've got my piece of clear vinyl, and I have pinned it, because I can pin it because it'll get stitched over. I've pinned it down, and I'm gonna top stitch this down to here. Then once I've done that, I do have another piece that I have to attach here, and I have another piece someplace that has to go down here. Then I'm gonna take this pocket and I'm gonna attach it over here, all right? But before I get to that, I'm going to first do this one, get the mesh down all the way, and come back and show you exactly what that looks like. So I'll be back in a few minutes with that all done. All right, our next step is, you can see I've got the top of my zipper, got my zipper top, got my zipper bottom, my zipper's all in there. Everything's good. So the next thing we need to do is we need to trim the bottom of this piece of vinyl, and hopefully you can see it on camera. And the directions will tell you exactly where to trim it to. And it's in number 4C, and it's on page 3 of your directions. So now that I've done that, the last thing that I need to do is I have to take my binding for the bottom part and I have to attach that. So I'm gonna grab my Wonder Clips, because the Wonder Clips really do work the best with this. And once I get this on, you'll see what it looks like. It'll just take me a second. And we've always got 1 or 2 of those nasty little threads hanging around someplace. I'm going to put my binding clips on, and that'll hold it all into place. So then what I'm going to do is, looks like I got it too long on one end. Let's slide it down a little bit. So what I will do then is I will move my needle position all the way to the left on my sewing machine, and I'm just going to top stitch really close to the edge here all the way down. So that's that. I will be back, because then once I've done that, I probably am going to go ahead and do the next step too, so that when you see me next, it'll be all down. Then I have a line right here that I need to line up. So I'm going to place it here and here. I'll pin it down. I'm going to do a top stitch here and a top stitch here to put it all together. So when I come back, this part of my bag is going to be all done. So I'll see you in a few minutes. You can see I've got all my stuff stitched down now. That's the inside. Here's the outside. Very happy with how it's come out. The last thing I need to do is I will be making my binding, but I also have to curve my corners. So this is just a thread cone, and I did measure the diameter of it, and it's about 2 1/4 inches. On her pattern, she tells you what size circle to use. I'm using this one. Mine's a little bit bigger, I think, than what she tells me. I'm going to take my friction pen, and just draw a little line around it. Just taking it right around the corner. And then I will just take my regular scissors and clip that. And once I've done that, I'm going to go over to the ironing table, or over to the cutting table, and I'm going to actually make my binding now, because I haven't done that yet. Now, I will tell you, I'm not going to film making the binding, only because, quite honestly, she has a fantastic directions in her pattern on how to do it. Very, very easy to follow. You won't have a bit of a hard time. So I'm not going to show you this time how to do the bias binding, because I really think her instructions are excellent and you'll be able to follow them. I'm going to make my bias binding. I'm going to attach it down, And then this bag will be finished also. So I'm very excited. I just think this is one of the cutest. I think this would be a fantastic bag for your carry-on stuff because you can see right into it. So next time you're flying, this will be the perfect little bag to take with you. Or if you know of someone who flies a lot, this would be a great little gift for them, for their toiletries, or really for just about anything that they're going to go flying. Yeah, I just think it's a great little fun little bag. Okay, so while I trim this corner up a little bit better. All right, that's it. I'm going to go get my binding made, and then I will come back and show you how I attach the binding and get it all ready to go. So I'll be back in a few minutes again. My binding is all made. Here it is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand stitch this one down. I did not hand stitch the first one. I'll show you. On the first one, I machine stitched it down. And it looks just fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But I wanted to hand stitch the big one down. So I've made my binding. What I'm going to do is take this great big huge length here, which you can see is the entire length of it. And I'm just going to kind of just let that be. I'm not going to mess with that because I'm going to need that tail when it comes to putting it all together. I'm going to put my first wonder clip. You can see here's my fold. I'm going to put my first wonder clip way down here. And I truly don't want to stitch any of this. So I'm going to take my wonder clip like that, my binding and my clip, and I'm just going to clip it all together right here because I do not want to stitch that. I'm going to actually use my big clip. All right, I don't want to stitch that. I want to leave that right there so that I can put it all together. Then I'm just going to go around this corner. Just going to put a little clip here. All right, and I'm going to round it and see how nice that rounds. And when I go to stitch it, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a couple of stitches here, go right down here, couple more stitches here, couple more here. So I'm just going to slowly go around this corner, but it will come out beautiful because the binding is cut on the bias, so it stretches very nicely. So I'm going to keep coming around. I'm going to do this all the way around my bag. Then I am going to take it over the sewing machine and put it together, including attaching the binding over on this side. And you're just going to use your regular method to attach the binding. I have a video on how to do binding. It's not bias binding, but regular straight of grain binding, and how to attach the two pieces together at the end. And I'll put a link to that video so that you can easily go find it and watch that if you need to learn how to attach the binding together at the end. So here I go, just slowly going around the corner, just doing a lot of pinning or clipping, which is fine. I'd rather do a lot and just sew through it once than do it multiple times and have to take it out. So I'm just laying it down flat, making sure I got it good and flat the way I want it. See, just clipping it down. Pretty simple. And then I'll go sew my 1/4 of an inch seam. I'm going to zip that closed so that, or closer to closed. You're going to have to make sure your zippers are open so that you can get all the way around it. Those are my little tails for making my binding. Clip those as I go because I don't need that extra bulk in there. No reason for it. Here I go, right around this corner. See, nice and simple. Put my clip and another one right here. Do another clip. One more corner. And then I can start sewing. And then I will just flip the binding over so that you can see what it looks like when it's all done. So I think this is pretty exciting. This was a really easy project. It was really quick and easy, and I think it's adorable. I think it's a really cute project. I don't think it would matter what fabrics you used, it would be adorable, but I especially really really like these fabrics. I think it really shows it off quite well. So here we go around this corner. All right, and I'm going to actually, it's a long ways away, but when I go to put this together, I want that much space. I'm going to actually grab this binding and I'm going to add it into my clip here because I don't want to sew any of this down either. I want to keep all of this up. So I'm going to start stitching right here before the zipper, go all the way around, and I'm going to stop stitching right over here just after the zipper. So I'll be back when I've got that sewn, then I'm going to put my binding together, and then I will show you what it looks like all finished. Almost there. All right, I want to first show you the bag completed at this stage. So you can see here's my binding. I did make 2 1/4 inch binding per Annie's instructions in the pattern. Here's my outside of my bag, and here is the inside of my bag. I attached the binding to the inside here, and then I've just flipped it around and I will hand stitch it down. And it won't take me long to do this at all. So I figured, this would be a nice little thing to do tonight while we watch TV. So here's my bag. This one also has the neat little magnet. Listen. Listen to how strong that is. Just clips right in there good and tight. So I'm very excited about this adorable little bag. So I'm really happy with it. Again, here is the little bag. I want to show you the little bag. And then here is the large bag, just so that you can get somewhat of an idea of the size. So here's the large bag. And then here's the little bag on top of it, just so you can see the difference in size. The big one is substantially bigger than the small one. So, but they're both just adorable. I think they're great little handy bags, and I love the magnets. Absolutely love those magnets. I just think that was a really cool idea to do. So here are my bags. Thank you so much for staying with me to the end while we made our just-in-case bag. The fabric kits, notion kits, and the pattern are available on my website if you would like to make one. I'll leave a link below so that you can go out and get your own pattern and all the fabric to make one just like mine. I liked it. It was a nice, easy project. It wasn't a difficult one at all. So you should be able to accomplish this in, a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon or one day in the sewing room, and you'll have 2 really cute bags. So thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget, we do have a Facebook page called Margaret Lewin Quilting, and I would love it if you would become a part of our group and share your projects. It's really a wonderful group of encouraging individuals that just enjoy the art of stitching and crafting. So pop on over there and join us. I will leave a link to the Facebook group below. The other thing we do have now for social media is we are on Instagram. So if you get a chance, go on over there. I did my very first live on Instagram today for a few minutes, which was a little daunting, and I can't wait to go back and see what it actually did look like because I haven't seen it yet. And I do have an email list, and I try to make sure that I email people just with things that are coming up that I think you guys want to know about. Try not to be too much of a pain in your email box because I know mine gets flooded every day, and it's not our favorite thing to happen. But I wanted to share all the places that you can get a hold of me. Thank you so very much for joining me today, and I'll see you again really soon. Bye, everybody.